We'll do a review on Likutei Sichos in Chelek Chof Aleph, volume 21. This is the second Sicha for the Parshas Vayakhel. The Rebbe explains a difficult Zohar in which it relates about that Rabbi Yossi was sitting in the company of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, who was teaching secrets of the Torah, and he started thinking, Mili da Alma, worldly matters. How could it be? With all the details, the Rebbe goes into a whole discussion that the Mili da Alma over here means things that relate to creation of the world. It's the Amal Sicha. What is a higher level? The level of Torah and the level of Tzorchei Tzibur. And what happens if a person can't learn Torah because he is busy with the Tzorchei Tzibur? The Rebbe brings down from the Torah Oir that there's two possibilities. Either he has to be reincarnated to learn that other part that he missed out, even though he had a good excuse, or the other possibility is that Hashem will give it to him sort of as a gift. The Rebbe explains that if you're not learning Torah because you are working for your parnasa, then you'll have to be reincarnated, perhaps the Rebbe suggests. But if you're not learning Torah because you have to work for community affairs, then you will get it. The Rebbe explains that Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai saw an opportunity for Rabbi Yossi. That's why only Rabbi Shimon saw this, for him to really get to the level of Torah at that point. So that's why he told him that he was lacking. And eventually he actually went to that level. So Rabbi Yossi on his own was sufficient to be involved Mili da Alma according to the Shoresh of his neshama, as we will see in the Sicha. Aleph, Vayakhel Beis Aleph. In Zoyar von Heintiker Parsha, in the Zoyar of this week's portion, where der zählt, it relates as ein Mol at one time, when the Chavraye, the group von Reb Shimon ben Yochai, seinen bei ihm gewähnt, the group of Reb Shimon ben Yochai were by Reb Shimon, und gerät in Yonim von Soides HaTorah, he was talking matters of the secrets of the Torah. Hat Reb Shimon ben Yochai gesehen, so Reb Shimon ben Yochai saw, as Reb Yossi have a maharer b'mili da alma. Reb Yossi was thinking about matters of the world, mili da alma. Hat him gezo. So Reb Shimon ben Yochai noticed or saw that Reb Yossi was thinking words in the world, mili da alma. So he said, Yossi kum ashlim diyuknach. Yossi, get up, complete your image. That chad chos the as chad chosabach. One letter of your name. He's going to see later on the letter Yud, as the Rebbe will explain from his father's Ha'aris. One letter is missing in your name, because he noticed that he was not paying attention to the secrets of the Torah. He was thinking about Mili. The Alma says, you're missing a letter of your name. Get up and make your name whole again. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai gizen. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai saw, as mitzad dem was Rabbi Yossi maharigim and b'mili da alma, because Rabbi Yossi was thinking in worldly matters. Is geworden nach chesor in sein diyoken. There was a lacking, something missing in his image. Ein ois von sein nomen choserbach. One letter of his name was missing by him. After this incident in which Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai pointed out this to Rabbi Yossi, so continues the Zoyar, der noch kom Rabbi Yossi v'chotem memilin deraisa. Rabbi Yossi got up and he rejoiced in words of Torah. And again, istakel bei Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon looked at him. Amalei Rabbi Yossi. Amalei, he says to Rabbi Yossi. So Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai says to Rabbi Yossi, hasht to ant shlim b'diyuk nach shlim. Now you are whole and your image is whole. The Rebbe teaches in Yiddish, Rabbi Shimon had gesagt, der noch hat Torah, and then Rabbi Shimon later on continued with a teaching on the verse Vayas as tzitz goimer. He made the tzit, that plate that was on the forehead of the Kohen Gadol, goimer from the Parsha. In Plug, the Rebbe says it seems like is there Sipur Tamur B'Yosir. It's a very surprising story. We're translating here. He was thinking about Mila the Alma worldly matters. How come such a great sage as Rabbi Yossi would be thinking about worldly matters? Viken Zain, how could it be as Rabbi Yossi was his given from the Gedela Tanoim? He was one of the great of the Tanoim. Ungefindig sich b'mesibes Rashbi at the time that he found himself and the company, the gathering of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai v'Chavrei Yishlo and his group. They were discussing secrets of Torah. So b'shas ma'aseh maharer zayin b'mila d'alma, he should be thinking at the same time about worldly matters in that company at that time. How is it possible that Rabbi Yossi would do something like that? And on the other hand, if for some reason he was allowed to, why did he actually be lacking his name, his image? And if you'll find an explanation, the fact that Rabbi Yossi was thinking about worldly matter is given in Anoif was in such a way which was accepted according to Torah. Sometimes a person may be allowed to think worldly matters. And we have to say that it was such a case that you're allowed to deal with Milat Alma, to the extent that it's for that, you will even go to the extent to mafsik sein dem Herren der Rose Torah, was sich dann gerät, to interrupt the listening of the secrets of the Torah that were being spoken then. So let's say we'll come up with some sort of a suggestion why that was okay. So then, if you find an explanation, then we have the question on the other side. So how come through thinking the Mila da Alma, he lost the letter of his name? So the Rebbe says that if we look about Rabbi Yossi, we see that Rabbi Yossi was also involved in a regular job. Besides, he wasn't just learning Torah. And we also find that Rabbi Yossi was involved in community affairs. So perhaps we'll explain the reason he was thinking worldly matters doesn't mean just stop worldly matters. It means his occupation, his community works. And that would also explain why, notwithstanding that he has a right to interrupt the learning for occupation of the community, as the halacha is that mevatlin Talmud Torah, that you could. So maybe, and that's what you're still lacking because you're not at the level of Torah. Base. So that's what Rebbe suggests in Oizbeis. We can explain this. This is based on the explanation from my father, from Rabbi Levi Yitzchok, in his notes on the Zohar from Zohar Lakama Siv Gimel. So over there, based over there, the point of the Likutei Levi Yitzchok, the Haaretz, says that this Mili the Alma wasn't just general words, but they were over there was a Malsicha, but based on that idea, we're saying these are not just stam words, but important words. So what could we explain? But first we're introduced to say what was Rabbi Yossi's occupation. Avapias Rabbi Yossi is given from the Chavraya Shel Rashbi, although Rabbi Yossi was part of that group of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, was Bazei is Bechlal in a general way by them, the group of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, given Teirosum U'Manosim. Torah was their crafts, that's all what they did. Is Ober nit given, but Rabbi Yossi specifically was not a Kolpanim B'chol Azmanim, at least during all times. Maybe sometimes he was. But we also know stories about Rabbi Shimon, about Rabbi Yossi, that he did other things besides learning Torah. he was not in them sug for nor oiskim b'Torah. He wasn't in the category of just learning Torah, occupying in Torah. Was einen nit mafsig zeir lernen, who do not interrupt their learning, oif zu oisig sein in an umonus, to occupy in some crafts, mili de almo. He wasn't one of those. He didn't dedicate his life, or at all times. It wasn't that he was only learning at all times. It's not Rabbi Yossi. How? Because the Gemara says, "V'as verder zelt in Gemara." The Gemara relates, "Ashalcha have," that he was a craftsman. He would work out. He was a tannery. He would work out the leather. That was his job. So, meaning that's the Gemara in Shabbos. And Uman labed oiris. Rashi says there he was a craftsman. He used to work through the leather, and make him into the skin, and make him into leather. So, number one, we're saying Rabbi Yossi had an occupation too besides learning. And number two, we also find that he was involved in community affairs. As Rabbi Yossi, he occupied themselves in community needs. Ledugma, we find in the Gemara Sanhedrin, the Rebbe brings down the verschiedene takonos was eingeführt in Zipoidi, the various kinds of institutions that he instituted for the people in Zipoidi. So he was active in the community as well. Okay, so since Rabbi Yossi had other occupation besides learning, so maybe that's why he had to interrupt, because halachically, if you're not terosim, also you have to interrupt. So based on this, we can say, as the mili da alma v'Rabbi Yossi hot maharer given, what was the worldly matters that Rabbi Yossi was thinking about? They were aspect matters of community needs. And that's why he interrupted in the middle of hearing secrets of the Torah. Why? Because the halacha is one who is occupied with community affairs, working for the community, it overrides, it pushes away the study of Torah. So he was learning Torah, but he had to, in his mind, think about his tzorchei tzibur. And we can also explain with this why he was lacking. He did what's right, but at the end of the day, he wasn't learning Torah. We could also explain with this, and why still, even though he had a right, there was a letter of his name was lacking. Even though he had a right, because Valdos was Eisek b'tzarchei tzibur is doiche Talmud Torah. The fact that one who occupies himself in community affairs overrides the study of Torah is tzulib te'elos v'toivas harabim. That's for the benefit and the good of the many. So other people will benefit from you. So you have to put yourself away and aside for the benefit of the many. So therefore, we say stop your learning and help out the many, the tzibur, the rabbim. But the person himself, the person who is occupying in the community affair, it may cause the one who is occupying himself in the community affair, it causes him a descent. Bis as Chazal sagen, we find in the Gemara over there, what was the meaning? The Gemara explains when Yeshua said to Moshe, Adoni Moshe Kloim. So what he was saying, Hatalem tzorchei tzibur v'en kol me'aleim. Put on them community needs and they'll be on their own. They will be calling. You won't have to do anything. Basically meaning that tzorchei tzibur pulls you down. And the Rebbe brings another example with the Mordechai, with the story with Mordechai, that the friends of Mordechai, the Sanhedrin, they lowered his level because he became second to the king, even though he needed to do that to save the people. By Mordechai, like we find by Mordechai, the Geret Amol Baruch has spoken in the past at length, as is geblieben am Mishnah Lamelech, he remained second to the king. While Zain Botel, the fact that he stopped learning Torah and he entered into this dominance is given L'Teves Klal Yisrael. That was for the benefit of all Yidden. Was his Deicha Talmud Torah that overrides Talmud Torah. So he needed to do that. Von deswegen, by ihm Gufat es gepoilt hayirida, by him himself, by Mordechai, it caused the descent. And that's what we say, Yorad Machashivuse Eitzel Chachomim. He went down from his importance by the Chachomim. So that means, while he needs to do it, he has a right to do it, he should do it, but yet he's missing out. And that's why the name was, that's why he also told him that you're lacking now, Rav Shimon Yechoy. He felt that Ilu V'Gadlus from Talmud Torah, because he was lacking that greatness of Talmud Torah. And the Rebbe brings now down from his father, from Levi, that what is the idea of a similar idea, the idea of Mili de Alma, words of the world, that is the speech of the Eibishter to create the world. It means that's also a relationship with the world, to be mevarer, mezachich, the world. Gimel, der Hezber, this explanation is genommen from Bir von Taten. This is taken from the explanation of my father in Seine Ha'ores von Zohar and his notes on the Zohar. Of them sipper on this study. Ados vos Rabbi Yossi hat maharer gewen b'mila de almo. This that Rabbi Yossi was thinking about worldly matters, does not, God forbid, meaning that he was talking wasteful matters, God forbid, this is the inyan fun amal sicha, this is the effort of sicha. Mili is words of the Alma. Amal sicha b'se'adover gadol. The effort of talk, the effort of sicha, Mili, the Alma, is something very great. We know about the Maimer Chazal questioning a person is created to work the effort. What is the effort that the person has to exert himself? So originally, in the Gemara, there's a thought, maybe it means work. Then the Gemara says, maybe it means sicha, speech. Could be interpreted as davening, could be interpreted as relationship to the world, as we'll see the Rebbe explains now. And yet the Gemara concludes over there that it really means amal Torah, the effort in Torah. But as the Rebbe points out, it doesn't negate, even in the conclusion, that only amal Torah. Amal sicha leads to amal Torah, but amal sicha is important as well. The Geret Amol Baruch, the Rebbe says in the bracket, as spoken in the past at length, in Embir Maimer Chazal, explaining the saying of our sages of blessed memory. Odom Lomol Yivole, the person has been created for effort. Any idea, but I don't know. What does it mean, the pasuk with effort? Imla Amal Torah, whether it's Amal Torah or it's Amal Sicha, the lamb of Sicha. The Gemara also says Amal Malacha, but that's not the issue at hand, because here we're talking about Mili de Alma versus Mili de Torah. So whether it's for Amal Torah or Amal Sicha, for effort in Torah and Sicha, and the Gemara concludes, that we have to say, we have the overwhelming proof that it's talking about Amal Torah, effort in Torah. So the Rebbe had spoken and explained, as von dem Gufe was in Torah's emes is do a habi amina. The fact that in Torah, which is true, there is even a thought, as I mentioned, by Shafen geworden lamal sicha, that a person was created for the effort in Sikha and talk is move on. It's understood that this is an Aveda Nilis, that this is a elevated type of a service. It's not just stam, nothing. Because even to have such a thought, if it was just Dvar B'Teilim, why would the Gemara even entertain that? Furthermore, even according to the conclusion that it was created for the effort in Torah, is does need shoyle legamri deminyan for a malsicha. This does not negate totally the idea of a malsicha, nor as a malsicha lane is not der tachlis briyas odom, but it just says that the effort in sicha, that alone is not the ultimate of created of the person, but it's still a very important part. And furthermore, you get to Amal Torah by starting with Amal Sicha. And on the contrary, not only is it not important, but you actually can't get to Amal Torah without having first Amal Sicha. In order to reach the goal and the elevation of effort in Torah, we have to have first the service of the effort in Sicha. Ubifrat, especially when we do Amal Sicha, we bring about the Sicha of the Eibishter, we bring around a sustaining of the world. Hashem's word that always creates is through Amal Sicha. Our Sicha brings the Sicha of Hashem. Befrat, as durch them tut man oif the Sicha lemailo, that through the Sicha below, the talk below, we accomplish the talk from above. As the Eibishter zol zogun, the Eibishter should say, so to speak, Vayakhel, the Asera Mamores Shabahem Nivra Ilam, the 10 utterances, the 10 sayings with which the world was created. Why do we need to pull? We need to pull that. That happened already a long time ago, when the world was created. But the world is constantly being recreated. The Alter Rebbe is mevayir in Tanya. The Alter Rebbe explained in Tanya, as the Asora Maimoris are ständig melubish in Olam lihis havusu l'hachayosei. The 10 saying are constantly dressed up in the world to bring it into being and to vitalize ulekaim and to sustain it. So das ist der Teich von Mili de Alma. The words of the world, it's not just your words, the words of the Eibishter of the world. He was occupied in the world that's the words that sustain the world. That's Mamoris. Those that touch the Alma, that's Mamoris was eine Beiro Melubish Neulam. Those that are create, and that is dressed up in the world. And as we find in the Zohar, those are words of the ordinary, which is the Eibishter's words to create the world. That's what he was engaged with. What does this mean? Engaged in Mile de Alma, but how does it translate in works of our service to Hashem in Avodah? In Avodas Oisius Hastus, what is it called in using words of Avodah? Maharer be'imili de Alma, or Amal Sicha, thinking about worldly matters, the world that sustained the world, or Amal Sicha is the Avodah fun Birurim. That's the service of sorting out. So mevarer or mezachir zayin, to sort out and to refine the nyonei ha'olam, the matters of the world, befrat, especially durch der avodah from kol masecho yi l'shem shamayim, the worldly matters of when we're not even doing mitzvahs, we're just everything that we're doing with l'shem shamayim. You mevarer the world that way, uvechol drachecha dei, in all the ways you know Hashem. That birur v'zichur from yonei rishus al adam, the sorting out and the refinement of the optional matters of the person. That's the mili de alma. The general things. Was the avodah working with the world, sorting out, learning Torah? You isolate yourself. That's learning. That's not working with the world. But when you're doing the avodas habirurim, that is working with milad alma. This accomplishes was the avodah to toidim kiyum ha'olam that sustains the world. Because when you are doing the sicha, the milad alma, you're mevar the world, and the Eibishter sustains the world. Aber von deswegen. But yet, is das nicht be'erech zu dem Inyan von Amal Torah? This is still not in the same value, the same, cannot compare it to the idea of Amal Torah. Especially the part of the secrets and the hidden parts of Torah. Even though through Amal Sicha we sustain the world through the 10 sayings. So, and that doesn't happen through Torah, that happens through the Birur, through the Amal Sicha. And yet it's higher, Torah is still higher. You have to do it. This is the intent. We can't say that you're not going to work to be mevared the world. The kavanah when you read this on neshama lamato, the purpose, the intent of the descent of the neshama below is nit l'saken atzma. It's not for its own correction, nor l'saken haguv v'nefesh habahamis v'chol k'ba'olam. It's to fix the body, the animal soul, and your part in this world. Und durch der avodah, and through this avodah of avodah sabirurim, and when you do the avodah birurim, you're working with the world. That is the main way how to accomplish this goal from Bria Soilo, from creation of the world in the Hashem had a yearning to have a dwelling place b'tachtonim. So this is something which fulfills the intent, but yet, notwithstanding all this, it's milid alma, it sustains the world, zasora mamoris. It does not come to the level of Torah. From deswegen is Amal Torah hecher from Amal Sicha. Yet, the effort in Torah is greater than Amal Sicha. While es is mamshich dem oire leki was his hecher from oire. Because through Torah you bring down the godly light which is higher than the world. And the Far is geworden nach Cheson in Rabbi Yosef's name, and that's why there was a lacking in the name of Rabbi Yosef and Hira b'milad alma when he was thinking about worldly matters, notwithstanding that he had to do it, and notwithstanding that sustains the world, but it's not that oirely key which is higher than the world, and his name was lacking. This is a descent relative to the idea of being effort in Torah. But the Rebbe is not satisfied with this explanation, because at the end of the day, Hashem created different souls for different purposes. And each person needs to do according to the level of their soul. How could we say at the end of the day, if Rabbi Yosef's purpose in life was to serve in the Eif of Chelek Tzibur Emili da Almo, yes, he doesn't have the level of Torah, but that's not his avodah. Why would he be missing and being taken away something from him? And we'll see that Rebbe will explain that it was an opportunity. That's why only Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai saw that Rabbi Yosef has an opportunity, and his name was missing, not in himself, but from Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's perspective, he could raise himself at that point to reach that higher level. That's why he told. Let's look aside. Now, when you think deeper about this, is das nit can be your maspik. It's not a sufficient explanation. Of them was ois chad choser boch, one letter is missing by you. So the Rebbe says like this: Tanhoge von Tanoim v'Ameiroim is given behesem zu Shoyrish Nishmosam. The conduct, the way the Tanoim and Ameroim they conducted was fit to the way the source, the root of their neshama. They had where the neshama comes from. That was their avodah. Al derech v'in unser fall, similar in our case that we're talking about. As dos was Rabbi Yossi davke ot nahar given b'milad alma. Why was it Rabbi Yossi? In the Zohar, there was a lot of people there, but Rabbi Yossi was thinking milad alma. The Rebbe's father explains it. That is vile vider tate is mevayer. My father explains Rabbi Yossi is b'chinas malchus. Rabbi Yossi is the level of malchus. Bozi is the moker of Elam Esbiyah. Malchus is the source for the worlds of Bri Yitzira Asiya. V'chaver nishave for the Asorim Amores the Malchus which are created from the 10 sayings of Malchus. So Rabbi Yossi's neshama is Malchus from which the 10 saying comes. Und der Fahr is ein Avoide dem Inyan von Amal Sicha V'Kiyim Ha'ilum. So that means his Avoide was Amal Sicha, sustaining the world, Birur Ha'ilum, as Rabbi explained. That was his neshama. Uvibal Dashlichusi for Rabbi Yossi Ba'al Modein. And since the mission of Rabbi Yossi in this world is the Avodah von Amal Sicha, is the Avodah of Amal Sicha, is emestake as in Amal Torah is dani lugod legabe Amal Sicha. Let it be true that there is actually a greater elevation in effort of Torah, more than there is in the Amal Sicha. Val Torah is hecher from Vel because Torah is higher in the world. Aber wie kann man sagen, how could they possibly say because he was thinking in matters of the world, his name should be lacking. Was the Shem Ha'adam is mekuven zu bechinas nishmasei. The person's name is directed and accurate, fits with his soul. So his soul doesn't need the other. He needs this milad alma. This is his soul. Why would a letter of his name be lacking? But that is connected to his name. That's what he needs to do. And the Rebbe brings down this known saying in the name of Rav Zusha Anepoler, Al derech vider bavuster, vort, similar to the known saying from Rav Zusha Anepoler, as meved ba'im nitmonen, they were not going to demand after he has to face the heavenly court after 120 years. They won't demand from him is nit in der darge von tzadikim gedoyle, why he's not at the level of great tzadikim. Nor is nit zusya. Just why aren't you zusya? Why aren't you the best you could be, not for somebody else? So when an amoyre source of neshama is Amal Sicha, why would we expect from them and say you're losing part of your name because you're not Amal Torah? That's not his job. Zois V'Oid. And there's another issue we have. If the person knows that he loses his part of his name because of his service, he'll feel bad that he won't do his service properly. Zois V'Oid. Ibal das to leave them. Since because of the fact because he's missing out the elevation of another service. This creates a lacking in his name. His heart, he'll feel bad. Und die Yediyah wird ihm stören. That knowledge will interfere zu mekayim and the avodah was is ihm zugeteilt worden to fulfill the service which has been given to him. The won't be able to do it with joy and gladness of heart because he says, "Oh, I'm losing out. I'm losing my name because I'm not at the greater level." This is what he has to do. And the Rebbe points out, which is really the key to the answer, how come only Rav Shimon Bar Yochai felt it, saw it, but not Rabbi Yossi himself? We also need to understand Kavosot Rav Yosi nit margish gewend dem chisoren. Why did Rav Yosi not feel the lacking was his geworen b'dioknei u'b'shmoi that was in his image and his name? Bis Rav Shimon bar Yochai hat him gesagt until Rav Shimon bar Yochai needed to tell him. Und also same thing is when is zurück geworden, when he became back. Durch dem was Chod in the middle of the Reise, when he started rejoicing in words of Torah, he became ashlim, he became whole again. But as them Rashbi Megalig, when Rashbi revealed, but he himself did not see it. And the answer is, as the Rebbe says, actually Rabbi Yossi from his perspective wasn't losing anything. And that's why he didn't see it, because he wasn't really missing anything. It was Rabbi's perspective which he enlightened Rabbi Yossi. Dabir in them, Azia in a sentence. That is actually the reason why there's not a problem, because he is doing what he should. Rabbi Yosef said Atzmei to say slate v'zayin avodah. Rabbi Yosef on his own, which means his service. Dar zayin mitzat sherish neshama. He has to work because the root of the neshama is ein hiru b'mila de alma. So Taka thinking about worldly matter. Nid given kichson. Taka wasn't liking anything. But the contrary, Kinis Kalil, we said before, zayin avodah, his service, and therefore his image and his name is Gemember Shleimus. It was whole. Das was es hat dann gefällt in him. What was he lacking in him? Is given bin Yonei als einer von Chavrayit Rashbi. That was in his matter, being of one of the group of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. Rav Shimon Bar Yochai als Teros Kidla Kaman. Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, who was only studying Torah, was hat euch damals gedarft bei ihm sein. So he saw that by him needs to be, and the father Davke Rav Shimon Bar Yochai Rosh Chavrai, was specifically Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, the head of the group. He can der kennen in Rav Yosef dem Chisoren. Only he conceded this lacking, because this was specifically to Rav Shimon Bar Yochai for the head of the Teros Mnoseh. Und euch, he can der kennen in Rav Yosef dem Chisoren. He could recognize that he's lacking. Und euch, when der Chisoren is der noch nicht geworden, and also when this lacking was completed later on. It was in Rav Shimon ben Yochai's eyes, he can see it as part of the head of the Chavraya, not in Rabbi Yosef, because Rabbi Yosef did everything he should, and there was no lacking in his name. Vov. But with those verstehen, like them was the Alter Rebbe bringt up in Hilchos Talmud Torah. Understand according to what the Alter Rebbe brings down in the laws of Talmud Torah. As kol nefesh tzricha litikuna, that every soul needs for its correction lasig bepardis, to occupy themselves in pshat teremesh drush soid, the four styles of the Torah study, kifi mashi yechoila lahasik, to the extent that it can grasp. Cannot be completed, corrected, and completed without this knowledge. The person must review and study in Pshat Remesh Drush Soid to the extent that he can. His soul cannot be complete without that knowledge. And a person who was lazy, did not reach, not grasp, and he knows only a little bit of what he should be knowing. So he has to come in a reincarnation until he will grasp and know everything that his soul can grasp from the knowledge of Torah. What happens, however, the Rebbe brings down from the Torah, what happens if the reason why you're learning a little bit Is das nicht mitzad atzlus. It's not because you were lazy, nor weil al pi Torah is potter from Talmud Torah, because according to the Torah, you're exempt from learning. Zog der Alter Rebbe in Torah, Alter Rebbe says in Torah, as in them Fall can sein zwei Fanim. In this case, there's two possibilities. Number one, those Gufi Zahira, the fact that Torah tells you that you have to interrupt and you got to do something else means as that your soul isn't connected to any more than you did, than you can do. It doesn't need any more grasping of the Torah. Und der Fahr kommt sie zu ihr Shleimus, and that's why this soul will reach its Shleimus euch mit dem Limud Nuad, also with this learning a little bit, because that's all what you need to do. That's your neshama. Even if one who learns the minimal, just one chapter in the morning and one chapter in the evening. That's one option, one possibility. Possibility number two, base. Since he occupies the Torah whatever he could, is Yashlim LaHaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem makes it up for him. Das was kommt, that which he deserves, and he did not reach durch limud, through learning and grasping the Torah. So the Eibishter will give it to him anyways. The Rebbe says now that we can say these two possibilities depending why you're not learning, why the Shulchan Aruch says that you don't have to learn Torah. If it is because you have to go work, that shows that's your level of your soul. If it is because you're doing community work, then Hashem will give it to you. We can say possibly. As totally, generally, these two ways depend in their sibah favos is what is the cause? Why can't he isik b'Torah? If he's occupied by right, by the permission according to the Torah, mitinyone parnosa, matters of his livelihood, and similar protiyim shaloi. These are in this your personal matters that are not allowing you to learn Torah. Torah gives you permission to attend to them. Is those then that is a proof. The point is that his soul does not belong to the masters of Torah, nor to the masters that do good deeds. She is not so much connected to understanding Torah. And therefore, is for him genug der limud Torah. For him is sufficient learning Torah from Perek Echad Shachris or Perek Echad Avris, learning one chapter in the morning and one in the night. Is given vernommen behetter Valpi Torah mit Inyonim von andere Tzedakah ki Yitzeboi. If he was, however, busy with the right, according to Torah, with other people's matters, not his personal matters. Tzedakah, kayetzevei, ubefrat, especially tzorchet tzibur, community work. Was eine doichet Talmud Torah, which override Talmud Torah mitzat Torah tell us harabi because of the good and the benefit of the many. That is thus in anayif, and then it's in a different way. As an Eibishter is in mashlim does was felt. Hashem fills in for him that which he's lacking. In bakuman durch limude vasogas haTorah, and he gets it, and he fills it by his study and grasping Torah. How would he grasp it if he's busy? Which also includes the way as benched him mit atzlocha meruba, the Eibishter blesses him with great success. And in a very little bit of time, he is able to achieve tutaroif in Torah. He accomplishes in Torah those was haderech harogel. That which was a normal case, tav geduyin man, needs to take a long time. Aderech v'estate in Yerushalmi, similar to what it stated in the Yerushalmi, benegayet to the Chassidim Arishonim, as it relates to the earlier Chassidim, was hoyu shoyim or mispalim teshosh b'yem. It says they would delay and they would take time, and they would pray at the end 9 days, an hour before davening, an hour davening, an hour after davening, times 3, 9 hours. So the Gemara says, well, when did they learn Torah if they were davening all day? So it says, Al Yidei Shoyu Chasidim, says in Yerushalmi Hoyso, because they were Chasidim, there was a blessing in their Torah. How does it poil? So this impacted they were able to immediately understand from the Pnei Moshe over there, and they did not delay. It took them quickly to grasp. So it's filled up by this blessing. As it says with regards to charity, that the mind becomes clear 1,000 times as much. So based on this, so the Rebbe explains, explain the story of the Zohar. Those was Rav Shimon bar Yochai der Zenat, was Rabbi Yosef felt an ois von sein Nomen. The fact that he noticed that there's a letter in his name. Ubefrad with the Tatis Mevayer, especially as my father, the Levik, explains, das is der ois Yud von Yosef. That's the letter Yud of the name Yosef. Was is connected then Yud for Shem Havai. That corresponds to the name of the letter Yud or Yud Kevavke. Was is Meir in Atzilus, which shines in Atzilus. That's the level of the Yud. K is in Bria, Vav in Yitzir, and K Achreina is in Asiya. But this is the Yud is in Atzilus. When Avodas Ha'odam is does the Inyan for Amal Torah in service of when we're talking about the level of effort in Torah. Ubefrat say this is a Torah special secret of Torah. Was is Hecher from Amal Sicha, which is higher than the Amal Sicha. The Asora Mamoris Mokar El Mizbiyah, which is the 10th saying, the source of the El Mizbiyah. But this is in Yoni from Rashbi. Terosum Nose, this is what Rabbi Shbi's was Torah. Umori Rosi Torah, the masters of the secrets of Torah. So, Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai noticed, Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai was in a higher level of Torah. He noticed that there was a letter missing in Rabbi Yosef's name. So that was a proof and a lesson. He's given as it's at this point. Why is he saying this? For the Sichos that Rabbi Yosef already gave for Zanaveda, he must transfer from his service the milad alma and worldly matters. It's right now he needs to take care of it Amal Torah, words of Torah, effort in Torah. In an oifim for Chavrai there has been to be part of the group of Rav Shimon bar Yochai. Terosim nosim. We can even say possibly even more than this. But at that time there was a special auspicious time with regards to Torah. As I limit that Torah in the Zman, that his study of Torah in that time, but I come upon we several times as such. That Nishtam when als was gedarf da kommen durch limud vasagas Torah, this will complete everything that he needed to receive through learning and grasping of Torah. He'll get it at that moment. That's why he saw it. In der Zeit was is given Maharib in Alma. He was time in Alma, he couldn't learn Torah them. He's going to make it up now. Is the noch given as it took place later on. As to them was come Rabbi Yosef. The Chodem Milner Isaac. Yosef got up and he rejoiced in matters of Torah. Then it turned out as Rashbi told him, Ant Shlim, you are complete with Yuknach Shlim, and your image is complete. Yashlafadish, Shlemus B'tachas. You can say Shlemus, complete wholesomeness, Oichdam over Mashlim given, that he also fixed the past because at that particular time he was able to make up for everything that he was missed. That's why only Rav Shimon bar Yochai saw it, because he was supposed to tell him and transfer him to the level of Torah at that moment in order to achieve all the things that he has missed out, and that brought the shleimus. This is Sichos Shabbos Parshas Vayakhel Pekudei, Tavshin Lamed Beis and Tavshin Lamed Hey.